How's it going? It's Rick T, Outdoor Adventure, and Billy Dog, he's here. He's a good lad, ain't you? Hey? He's loving a fresh snow day. Well, it's a funny day. It's beautiful and it's snow, but it's started off a bit of a wet, like wet snow, which makes it, even harder survival wise. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at how easy it is to spend the night relatively comfy, relatively warm with the 5 C's. The 5 C's are quite important to carry survival aspect wise. They make life so much easier, and the 5 C's can be carried in a pocket depending how tight you want to make it, or in a big rucksack depending how big you want them 5 C's to be. But the 5 C's make a massive difference to survival. Yep, bushcraft / survival, for spending time in the woods and for spending time comfortably in the woods without grafting too much in a survival situation. There will be the difference between life and death. Absolutely no doubt about it. If you can make all these 5 C's from the land, but it's a hell of a lot more difficult than carrying them. If you're carrying them, even like I say, in a small pouch, it can be life or death. We'll have a look at them. Let's get on. We need to get a shelter built. First C, and probably the most important C in a survival situation, cover. Get yourself under cover, get yourself a shelter. Now we can carry that. It can be a tent, could be a tarp, could be a group shelter, could be whatever. Could be a small bag, could be one of these small survival bags if it's a kit in a tin. But we need something to make a shelter. Like I say, it can be done naturally, but in a survival situation, carrying that C for cover can make a massive difference, time wise and effort wise. So first C, cover. Second C, cordage, just to help you make that shelter quickly and easily. Yep, the cordage can come in for many more things. Traps, there's a million and one things. Just makes making things so much easier. So cordage, carrying a little bit of cordage as a small hank, 6 foot, 10 foot of cordage in your pocket, might be 30 foot, but that can make a big difference. Third C, after that shelter and that bit of cordage to help us, combustion. In these sort of weather conditions, depending what sort of equipment you've got or you've managed to find, you're going to need a fire. You're going to need a fire to keep warm. Depending what country you're in, you might need a fire to keep the animals away. You're going to need a fire to boil that water. That water's safe. A fire ideally, you catch any food, you forage any food to cook that food. But initial priorities to keep yourself warm: fire, combustion. Now when we're talking about making that water safe, if it's down to drinking, and it's life and death, and you can't get a fire going, you've got to drink it. But if you can make a fire at all costs, get that fire made and boil that water. But to boil that water, you need that other C. That other C is containers. So it's always wise to be able to carry a container. Like I say, you can make them in the wild, but it's going to take you time. That making them in the wild knocks on to our next C. Cutting tools. To make a container without cutting tools, it's all doable, but again it's more time. Cutting tools, fantastic advantage for making that shelter, for collecting that firewood, for skinning that game. A million and one applications. So a small kit, a small knife. A big kit like me today, axe, saw and a knife. Found a good spot. I'm looking for somewhere sheltered from the wind. No widow makers, No dead wood that's going to come down and land on me and squash me with the weight of the snow or the wind, if there's any wind. Water. I need somewhere where it's close to water, so I've got that source to rehydrate myself. I need wood. I need wood to build me shelter or parts me shelter. I need wood to burn, wood to cook, to make me water safe. So that's what I'm looking for, those 4 W's. And this looks pretty good. I want that tarp easy to get at. Put my tarp near the top of my pack, somewhere I can get at it quick, get that shelter up quick. There we have it, a very, very simple shelter put up in a matter of minutes, 10 minutes. So to build something like this from natural materials, it's going to take me at least an hour, maybe longer, maybe 2 hours to do a proper job. And to make it waterproof, it's going to take you a bit of time. But it's doable. I've done it hundreds of times myself and slept in those natural shelters, and they're great to do. But as far as the 5 C's are concerned, carrying that little bit of cover makes life so much easier and quicker. So now we need to consider what we're sleeping on. A massive bit of sleeping out in cold weather is conduction of the cold from the ground. You'll know yourself if you've ever slept in a tent in winter with a rubbish insulated mat, you freeze. You're back in sleeping in a hammock without an underquilt in winter because of that convection from the wind. You're not let on the ground, but that convection on the wind gives you cold back. But sleeping on the ground, it'll sap every little bit of cold out of you. So we need something down here. You know, you can buy your expensive thermarest and everything else, but if you've got a bog standard thermarest or a foam mat or whatever, it probably won't do the job. So what you need is to get yourself off the ground, and if you're sleeping without a mat, definitely a big thick layer off the ground. What we're going to do to start with, we're going to build a bed. We're going to raise ourselves up slightly off the ground. Let's get a bed made. Now this is when them big tools come in handy. That saw, that axe. You can break stuff down this way out using the mechanical aspects of trees and what have you. But so much easier with a saw and an axe. C for cutting tools. Shelters up, raised bed. Next C, cutting tools. Make life easy. We're going to need some firewood to last us through the night. So I'm going to gather a decent amount of firewood before I even think of sparking this fire up. Get it processed using them big tools again. I know how Billy likes it. Oh yeah, that's good firewood. Gonna keep us warm tonight, that. See, for cutting tools, again, Makes life easy. Another good reason, C for cordage. Carrying bundles like this without a bit of cordage, this would be a pain in the ass. Right, I reckon that's fire prep done. What do you reckon, Billy? Trying to find your way through, big lad? Oh, so it's still that wet, dank day, but it's like I said, work because it's cold but not too cold, but it's wet snow, so everything gets wet. So yeah, it's sort of graft. You'd rather just have it crisp and clear, wouldn't you? But it's going to get colder later on, so I'm ready for some scran and a drink. I've not had a drink for a good while, so fancy a bit of hot chocolate. So let's get this fire cranked up and get a brew on. So in a survival situation, or any situation in the outdoors, canoe trip into the backcountry, into the wilds, up a mountain, travelling along, hill walking, all sorts of these activities, mountain biking, what have you, you'd be crazy not to carry some means of fire. Now most people will know the ferrocerium rod. I would never be away without one of these on any sort of wilderness trip, but you'd be absolutely crazy not to carry a lighter as well. Yep, a lighter, whatever method of lighting fire, emergency fire starters, bits of tyre in a tube, etc, etc. And always have that next fire mentality. So as you're walking through the woods, if you see some birch bark, it's dry, get it. If you see some resources, if you see a bit of a tyre in a tube on the beach that's been washed up, pick it up, cut it into small strips, etc. Next fire mentality. So I've got a ferro rod, I've got an handful of birch bark which I've foraged in the past, that's been in my bag so it's dry, because you'd have a job to find it today. There is bits you can find, but you'd have a job. So let's get this spec'd up. We've got it. Not far off. There, we've got it. Put that somewhere safe. Don't want to lose that. I'll put that on my bed for a minute. Banging out some good heat, that. Just catching it under the front of this tarp as well, with no wind coming in from the back, so we're covered with no cold coming up from the bottom. Give you your tea in a bit, lad. You can have your tea in a little bit, alright? Yeah? I don't want this, it's a bit too spicy. Yeah? This is a bit too spicy for you. Yeah? Yeah, if you ever watched that TV series Alone, where they dropped off in the wilderness and they've got to survive for as long as they can, they've always got them 5 C's covered. Always. I mean, they get issued with a tarp, so they don't need it. But you could say the sleeping bag's cover that they go for. But they've always got the cutting tools, the containers, the cordage and the combustion. Always. And then, like I say, they're supplied with a tarp, so they usually build a shelter using the tarp for the waterproof side of it. But yeah. The wind's changed directions a bit, which is a bit of a nightmare. Blowing smoke in a minute. There's not much wind, to be fair, but enough to be aggravating. Anyway, I'm going to get a couple of sausages on. Hey? Let's get a couple of sausages sizzling away. Me and Billy will have a sausage each before bed. Billy's tucked up, so I'll not be long off myself. A couple of sausages and another drink, another warm drink, and then we'll get my head down, I reckon. Let's get these on anyway. Oh, get them on there. That's it, it'll be alright there. That tin of dog food there that I'll be coming back with me tomorrow. And there's Billy's setup down here. So he's got a sheepskin and a wool blanket, and hopefully we can keep him warm enough with that. Hey Billy, good lad. The wind changed direction last night. It started blowing the smoke into shelter, so my initial plan was to leave the fire going all night. Oh, good to get the fire sparked up again this morning. It was alright last night, really. I mean, it's obviously down to minus figures, like my water was frozen when I got up and what have you. My camera battery was dead, I had to change my battery over, etc. But it was alright, you know what I mean? It was a nice night, really. I mean, blooming heck. I wouldn't even call it cold, really. It was a little bit fresh, but it was alright. I was never at any point cold. Billy was never doing any shivering or anything. Billy was right as rain wherever he is. He was right as rain. So my original plan was to leave the fire in all night. That's why I got enough wood. But the wind changed and started blowing the smoke into the shelter. So yeah, it's not worse. It was the lesser of two evils. And it weren't, like I say, I weren't cold anyway. So there's no worse than blooming having a shelter full of bloody smoke, but it just shows how easy it is. Wind changes direction and boom. Especially when you've built a bed, it's not like I could just quickly whip my tarp down and put my tarp up on the other side or something like that. But anyway, yeah, it's a good night. I'm ready for a brew and some scran, absolutely. That's the moon up there. Stripping down camp. Okay, we don't have fingers though, let's give them a worm. All gone. Leave no trace. Yeah, come here. Fire pit's cleaned up. Everything. Yeah, can't even tell we've been here. Apart from a bit of cut wood stashed in the long grass out that way. Hopefully nobody finds it and I'll use it again in future. Come on, Billy. From Rick T, Outdoor Adventure, and Billy Dog. Thanks for joining us. It's been a top winter trip. We've loved every minute of it. We'll catch you again real soon. See you later. Ta-da.